Hey all, here OSMVDXtras.com. You're watching our review and look back at the HTC EVO 3D. This is a 4G LTE device on contract on Sprint for a on-contract price of around $200. You can also get it off contract now online, such as Amazon and eBay.com, for around $129, around 130 bucks is what you'll be paying for this product. Now, interesting thing about the EVO 3D is, of course, the 3D sensor on the back. It has two 5.0 megapixel cameras for you to record HD video and also 5.0 megapixel camera shots for you to view back on the glasses-free stereographic 3D display, and allows you to also play back 3D games on the screen and on the phone itself, which is pretty impressive. And of course, 3D technology was the hype around, again, 2 years ago when the device was first released, and ever since then we haven't really seen any more 3D emerging technologies apparent in the consumer electronic cell phone industry, but we have seen it again in TVs and television sets, of course. But it's just a little bit of a shame we felt that the device never really caught on as far as mainstream consumer-based appeal is concerned, because it is a very, very cool and very intriguing and innovative product in our minds. The HTC EVO 3D, even in today's standards, does have pretty good mid-end specs. It has a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz Snapdragon processor on board. It also has 1 gigabyte of RAM, also with 4 gigabytes of storage, which you can expand via a micro SD card slot behind the back cover. Again, you have 5.0 megapixel camera that's able to catch HD video. On the front also has a 1.3 megapixel camera. The device has a 4.3-inch capacitive multi-touch enabled touchscreen, which also has a QHD display resolution. Taking a look at the design, the device is very traditional in terms of HTC build quality. It has a metallic frame on the sides. Now, the downside to having a metal frame is, of course, it bends, and it also scratches pretty easily. But otherwise, the device does look pretty sleek. The bottom device has 4 traditional capacitive keys corresponding to the home, the menu, and the back and the search keys. They do work very well. They also are backlit, so you can even see them in darker environments. The top device features a speaker grill and that aforementioned 1.3 megapixel camera. The top features a power on and off key and a 3.5mm headphone jack. The left-hand side features the micro USB for charging and syncing information, while the bottom features just a microphone, and the right hand side features the volume rocker as well as the camera shutter key, which is a 2-stage one for the autofocus enabled camera, and you can also switch back and forth here between 2D and 3D modes for the camera itself. The camera also has dual LED flashes for darker environments, which works quite well, and if you're curious to what the back looks like, it is a soft touch material that is quite traditional in terms of HTC designs. Overall, the device is definitely not the smallest phone out there, but it's also not the bulkiest. It is quite heavy, especially with all the soft touch and metal components on board, and so if you are planning on using the device, just note that the device is a little bit on the heavier side. Taking a look at the camera first, because it is the main selling point of this phone, we can see that 3D works actually quite well. Of course, it probably will not show up on camera on screen, but first we can show you the 2D camera, which actually is very impressive for a phone itself. You can see the autofocus works very well without an issue, and you can take the images quite fast, and it will capture that shot and save it immediately. So camera capture rate also works. There's a host of other camera editing applications on board, because this is, again, a 3D camera, so the camera portion is quite important, in addition to the 3D gameplay, of course. So you have that addition to switch back and forth between different modes. You have different effects like sepia, dilution, you have diffusion of light, You also have a different effects that are kind of nice and kind of fun to play back and forth with: old-fashioned modes, antique, sepia modes. They all work pretty well. You can also touch certain areas of the actual camera to focus on different parts of it, which works as well. Even in darker environments, it works. It also is an auto LED flash for you to turn the flash on and off, and also there's the settings to adjust the resolution. So now let's take a look at the 3D quality. I'm not sure this is going to actually show up on the camera itself, but it actually works extremely well in terms of 3D capability is concerned. The one thing I will say, though, is the angling is very important. Now, if you first don't feel like the 3D effect is coming through, you kind of have to stare at the screen for a few seconds in order for the effect to come through. And then after it does, it actually works extremely well. Now, the 3D capability works best in conditions where you have a very clear distinction between some things that are close to the camera and things that are far away. Also, something to note is that 3D quality doesn't work very well when things are very close to camera sensor. They work best when we were testing it with environments that are around a feet or two away. Now, something like this, which is extremely close to camera sensor, even when we are using it right now, we're kind of dizzy and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it's not just you that can't really see this, but if we do use it in outdoor environments, such as in a forest environment where we have different trees and different layers upon layers of settings, phones, then it's really easy to see the 3D effect really pop out and grab you. It's definitely one of the stronger stereographic 3D effects we've ever seen in any consumer electronic product we've tested. So it definitely works, and it works extremely well, in our opinion. Again, the downside to using 3D is, of course, it takes a little bit longer to capture the shot, and also it won't work with everybody, and it is a glasses-free solution, so at least you don't have to wear anything, but again, it does provide a little bit more of an eye strain, so when you're using 3D, you have to be careful not to use it for too long. Something else that we found really interesting, in particular about the MyTouch 3D, is the fact that the sensor on the bottom, which includes these different keys for the home, the menu, and the back keys, they actually are touch sensitive, not just on the buttons themselves, but kind of like on a touch strip sensor. So it's kind of like there's a sensor down here that extends throughout the entire panel instead of just having dots correspond to different portions of the screen. Now, this is because when we were browsing the web, or when we're using the multi-touch sensor, for example, if you launch a web browser right now, we found that when we were trying to zoom in and out, we didn't have to stay on the screen itself. We could actually zoom by putting one finger here and then one finger in the spacing between the dots, and it would still zoom in and out. So it feels like the bottom of the device isn't just buttons that are touch sensitive, but it's actually the entire area and the regions, like a gesture area, which we found kind of fascinating, especially since HTC doesn't really comment on that part of this phone, which we found and was kind of unique about this model. So let's go and launch the web browser, going to all applications, and going into the internet application. So for example, again, you can see you can zoom in and out with the multi-touch sensor. It works again very well. But again, you can put one sensor here and then kind of, we're highlighting and copying text now, but you can zoom in and out, and you can see that I can move around even as I'm moving down here, which is quite strange because we definitely didn't expect that. We thought that the capacitive buttons only, stretch the buttons themselves, but this is clearly not the case. Now, the HTC EVO 3D runs on Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, which works pretty well. You can see that in the menu. This is actually after an update to the device. It originally did not come with this version of Android, and you can see that HTC has done their usual customization using the customization on top of Android itself, which we are fans of. We think it's one of the better customization skins that are implemented by manufacturers that are out there. But taking a look, we can take a look at the about the phone and the software version, the hardware version, and the software information. We see it's version 4.0.3, and this is a standard, Android Ice Cream Sandwich version that has been upgraded by HTC Sense. So it runs 3.6 in terms of Sense, if you're curious about that. So what that really brings you, again, is that Leap View screen, so you can pinch in and out of the main screen to view and access all your different applications and all your different home screens, to select different pages, to go back and forth a little bit more easier. Otherwise, again, you have a little bit larger, more colorful icons, which are more, suited and more, the trademark aspects of HTC Sense as a whole. And also, of course, you have that whole widget clock on the front, which works very well for, calendars, and, you can slide back and forth between bottom sections of a lot of applications that HTC has altered just for you to have a little bit more ease of use and the ability to have a little bit more animations as you switch back and forth between applications. Otherwise, the device is a very responsive device. It's very lucid, definitely because of that 1.2 gigahertz processor. We never really were in an area where we experienced a lot of hiccup, which is always nice. And you can see that we're in an area of Wi-Fi, which is a little bit weak right now, but it still works quite well. And again, all the applications that HTC has put in here really comes out because, again, the screen is really bright, really responsive. Viewing angles are decent. They're extremely, nicely saturated. So as a result, the device is quite pleasing in terms of operation and entertainment. Otherwise, again, you don't have any other features that are too, extraordinary in this handset in particular. It runs really well. The device does heat up a little bit, and when you use it for extended periods of time, especially with the camera on board, it definitely drains the battery life, though. If you want something with a very strong battery life, the EVO 3D is not the phone for you. It will die in around a day. You have to recharge it, which can get a little bit tedious. The positive side is the battery is user removable on the back cover, which allows you to swap out batteries as those die out for very cheap. You can get them online for under $5 for a replacement battery. As far as talk quality or sound quality is concerned with the microphone, it is very strong. We were always in an area with reception, so as far as reception from Sprint goes, it is very decent and excellent. Sound quality was sometimes a little bit tinny. They did lose a little bit of sound quality, especially in some touchy areas, but overall it is a very good phone because it is a phone first, even though it is a very good entertainment device secondary. As far as web browsing is concerned, again, you have that native web browser by WebKit. It does support support full Flash and Flash browsing, so you will be able to watch videos and Flash ads for better or for worse inside the browser itself. So for example, if we go to NewYorkTimes.com, you also get a chance to see the QWERTY keyboard, which is also Sense kind of customized. It works pretty well. You can see the accelerometer also kicks in here. So if you want to go to NewYorkTimes.com, New York Times, I'm just going to search that. You can see that over Wi-Fi, the device is quite speedy. Even so, via 4G, sorry. You can just press this to New York Times. It will load the mobile site first, but I can go and load the full site by going down here and then pressing View Desktop Version. And it takes a little bit more time to load, of course, the desktop version, but overall it does a very nice job, very decent one of loading that as well. As far as the front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera quality, by the way, is also very decent. And if you want to take video chatting applications like WeChat, it works without a hiccup, and it's totally fine also for self-portraits. So you can see now that the New York Times page, which is a kind of a benchmark for complex web browsing pages, it works without a hiccup. Browsing back and forth works extremely well. We don't have any areas with any checkerboard patterns popping up, and also you can pinch in and out of areas to zoom in and out, and it is pretty smooth, so you can see content a little bit more clearer. So overall, it's pretty impressive and easy to use. Of course, in Ice Cream Sandwich, you can also press the home key for extended period of time to bring up a list of all your currently open applications, and then multitask using this manner, which also works pretty decently, but closing in and out of applications that are currently open. Again, otherwise, not too much to talk about this device. There's a lot of preloaded applications. They are, what you might call bloatware, but on this particular model, we did think that HTC and Sprint's selection of applications aren't that bad, and they also add to the entertainment value of this phone. For example, you have personalization, different skins from HTC to select from, such as Work and Play. You also have Play Movies. There's a quick video application on here. A Polaris Office application is preloaded, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. It's basically a full version of kind of like Office. So you can actually create new Excel as well as Word documents on the go. So I can press on the menu key, new, I'm going to press a new Word document, and I can start typing away. And it's, again, really easy to use, also really easy to view your pre-existing ones. And again, you can start typing, which it's a very basic version of it, but it does work. And you can then copy and paste it and then send it to other people if you are a productivity, a road warrior on the go. So taking a look at some other applications that are preloaded here, you have a Sprint hotspot. You can use this device as a Wi-Fi hotspot for you to connect up to other devices. It works pretty well, but you have to pay a monthly fee. As far as GPS is concerned, you do have TeleNav GPS Navigator built in, but this is an external service, which does not come included in the monthly fee that you might pay for just for phone calls. You have to pay a little bit extra for that. The weather application, again, works pretty well. You also have an HD YouTube version built onto here. You can also switch back and forth between your frequent applications and your downloaded applications games. So overall, again, a very impressive device in terms of performance is concerned. Taking a closer look at some 3D games in particular, you have a Spider-Man 3D game. I'm not sure this is going to come across exactly correctly on the screen itself, but it is a pretty addicting game. It is the full version, which is quite nice, again, because the HTC and Sprint had to load a few demos of the 3D capabilities. In terms of the ability to download more applications in the App Store, it is a lot more limited. So even though this device is 3D capable, of course, since the device never really caught on in terms of the mainstream consumer electronics, unfortunately, the Android App Store doesn't have much 3D games you can actually interact with. There are a few ones that developers are putting out there that you can maybe find, but they are very rare, they are fleeting, so that's something of a drawback if you purchase this. Not a ton of 3D games are available at the present, so you are kind of limited to taking images, viewing back images, taking videos, viewing back videos, and kind of interacting with some pre-existing 3D applications, and perhaps the few that some people have put on there kindly. So overall, it is a pretty interesting device. Is the 3D gimmicky? It might be a little bit gimmicky, but at the end of the day, it does work and function as advertised, which we're pretty happy about, and it definitely sets the device apart, in our opinion, from any other Android smartphone on the market. With that 3D stereographic display, it definitely comes across, and especially, again, in depth of field views that are not very close to the camera itself, the 3D effect is actually quite popping. And, if you have a lot of 3D content you want to view on this phone, it actually does work very well and and we were pleased with the 3D experience. It works, again, very nicely. As far as the phone, it also offers decent performance, and again, the specs on this handset are also, again, pretty decent for a mid-end to perhaps high-end when the device was first released Android-based smartphone. So for some reason, Spider-Man is loading over Wi-Fi. It's not really getting past the screen, but again, it does work. It does use of 3D technology. It's not gonna come across really well on camera, but it does work, which is, again, pretty nice. So thanks for watching here, osmvgxreviews.com. This has been a look back at the HTC EVO 3D for Sprint service in the United States.